on TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is Talk TV.
Good evening, I'm Piers Morgan, Uncensored tonight, a jaw-dropping world-exclusive interview with a true Hollywood legend. Mickey Rourke was once the hottest property in Hollywood. Smash hit 80s movies like 9.5 Weeks.
Aren't you going to ask me how I like this?
Angel Heart.
You want me to check it out?
Check it out.
Catapulted him to the top of Tinseltown's A-list. Brooding heartthrob was hailed as the new Marlon Brando, but his sparkling on-screen stardom mastered dark reality. Raised by an abusive stepfather and plagued by mental health problems, Rourke feuded with co-stars, directors, producers, and, well, pretty much everybody else in LA too. And after burning every bridge in Hollywood, Rourke lost it all. He battled alcoholism and drug abuse. His second marriage to the model Carrie Otis ended in acrimony. The tawdry details played out in the tabloids. A foreshadowing of his friend Johnny Depp's split from Amber Heard. It was a failed attempt to revive teenage dreams of being a professional boxer that robbed him of his good looks. And the heartthrob has been. But after a lost decade in the Hollywood hinterland, and with some questionable plastic surgery, Rourke defied the odds. He rebuilt his career and his life. The 2005 movie Sin City was an unlikely smash hit.
I love hitmen. No matter what you do to them, you don't feel bad.
And in 2008, Rourke played an aging fighter, mounting an ill-advised comeback in The Wrestler, which earned him an Oscar nomination.
You're my girl. You're my little girl. And now I'm an old broken down piece of meat.
2 years later, he featured alongside another comeback kid of Hollywood, Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man 2. He even gave Sylvester Stallone a tattoo in the smash hit The Expendables.
I want to die when someone, cares about me, I don't want to die for a woman. Die laying next to a woman. That's what I want. Something special.
I hear that.
And the has-been was now, once again, a hot shot. The roles in big-budget hits have kept him in the public eye.
I can do that, no problem.
Hey, this is our guy.
And so too of his very public controversies and feuds. Mickey Rourke is never in the shadows for long. Now, despite his multiple shots of redemption, Mickey Rourke still courts controversy. He also has an opinion on almost everything. This sensational interview made headlines across the planet, and when you see it, you'll understand why. It was so compelling, I actually kept the cameras rolling on our conversation long after the first part of the interview was supposed to end. So tonight we're bringing it all to you in full. Mickey Rourke opens up on living through COVID.
The COVID thing actually helped me out a little bit because I was able to go around all the different sports shops and get all the workout equipment I needed for close to a year and a half. So I did nothing but train for, 45 minutes twice a day and did a lot of reading and soul searching.
He talks about his violent childhood.
I came from a very shameful upbringing, and it was very violent and it was very physical abuse and mental. And when I left home at 14 or 15, I didn't realize I was so happy that the physical pain was over, because that was horrifying.
I asked him about the success of his contemporary, Tom Cruise. Mickey, when you see someone like Tom Cruise, you know, grossing $1 billion with Top Gun Maverick, the sequel, 35 years or so after the first one, what do you think of that?
That doesn't mean to me. The guy's been doing the same part for 35 years. You know, I mean, I got no respect for that.
He also revealed a secret visit from the Secret Service.
There's one big reason for that, but I'm not going to go into it because I don't need another visit from the Secret Service.
And he opened up about his controversial comments in support of Russia's Vladimir Putin.
All this mayhem and this death and this killing, I didn't see that when I was at the children's home with the little kids that all had cancer, and he was so genuine and empathetic, and I saw someone who really cared. Now, people might be mad at me for saying something like that.
But we start at the beginning. Mickey's shocking upbringing, how his teenage years were laced with violence and abuse, and the decision he made at 14 that has impacted his life ever since. Mickey opens up on what he learned from 23 years in therapy, the iconic actors he idolizes, and where he views his own career trajectory right now. Stand by for uncensored opinion, cast strength views, and yes, what Mickey really thinks of Tom Cruise. How have you been? I've interviewed you numerous times over the years. You look in great shape.
Yeah, the COVID thing actually helped me out a little bit because I was able to go around all the different sports shops and get all the workout equipment I needed for close to a year and a half. So I did nothing but like train for, 45 minutes twice a day, and did a lot of reading and soul searching, and kind of tried to figure I was working out a game plan for the third chapter and trying to go over all the mistakes I made the first two chapters and not making them again, because it just made life difficult for me, and I've said this before, about over 20 years ago, I was in London actually at Blake's Hotel, sitting on the phone with Richard Harris, and Richard gave me some really good advice he said, Mickey, man, he said, listen, you can't beat them. There's too many of them, and they got too much money, and he says, you just got to pull back, and I got off the phone with Richard, and I thought, nah, I'm going to do it my way. And, and I made a big mistake because Richard had been there before me, and I really was not to take Richard's sound, good advice that he gave.
What have you learned about yourself, Mickey, in this? It sounds a fascinating journey you've been on here. What have you learned most about yourself?
Well, the biggest thing was I came from a very shameful upbringing, and it was very violent, and it was very physical abuse and mental. And when I left home at like 14 or 15, I didn't realize, I was so happy that the physical pain was over, because that was horrifying. That went on for nearly 10 years. But I didn't realize that it was going to me up in my head, my way of thinking, my way of dealing with people, because you have a choice when you're abused physically. At the time, I wasn't thinking about it mentally. There comes a time, and it happened when I was about 14. And when you're living in shame, there's nothing worse than that. So you got two choices. You either live in shame and you become like a broken soul, a broken person, or you get hard. And I chose to get hard. Not by choice, just by survival. And as the years passed and I messed everything up that I tried to accomplish, you know, I take the blame for it, because by me getting hard with everything and everybody, alienated me from, I became, as my therapist told me, a scary person to deal with. And I didn't know how to turn the off switch off.
And have you learned, Mickey, have you learned how to turn that off now?
I've learned, well, it's interesting. I went to therapy for 23 years, and I didn't ever think I would. But the therapist said to me one day, he said, after about 3 or 4 years, out of the 23 I went, he said, you have absolutely no regard for repercussions or accountability. He says, that's just not in your DNA. And I realized, with dealing with people who deal from an authoritarian place, producers, who think that they can treat you a certain way because they're the ones with the money and the power, they finally ran into a cat that didn't give a about their money and power.
I've got to watch your language, Mickey. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I have to apologise when you do that, but I understand why you feel this way.
Yeah, I apologize to it. I'm just saying, you know, people who have money and power, they really feel that they have this thing where they can treat you a certain way. But I made a decision a long time ago when I was 14 that I got to be a man. And I had to be a man at 14. And later on, as the years went by, even with the success and the destruction of my career, it was always important for me, because of where I came from, to be a man first and then actor second.
I interviewed just before The Wrestler came out, and it was an incredibly powerful interview, because you've been in the wilderness for so long then, and then suddenly The Wrestler came along and propelled you back to the top again. What was that moment like for you?
But I'm back in the wilderness after The Wrestler.
Well, you're not really, though, are you? I don't think you are.
Not really, because what I learned to do was I wasn't going to let anyone put me on the shelf.
Yeah.
All right? Because I've got enough ability, and I've got more ability than most actors that are walking around. And if I could just behave myself, there's a lot of young up-and-coming directors that aren't afraid of how I used to be perceived.
When you see Mickey, when you see someone like Tom Cruise, you know, grossing $1 billion with Top Gun Maverick, the sequel, 35 years or so after the first one, what do you think of that?
That doesn't mean to me. The guy's been doing the same part for 35 years. You know, I mean, I got no respect for that.
Really?
I don't give it. No, that's really, brother. I don't care about money and power. I care about when I watch Al Pacino work, and Chris Walken, and De Niro's early work, and Richard Harris's work, and Ray Winstone's work. That's the kind of actor I want to be, like Monty Cliff, and Brando back in the day, and a lot of guys that just tried to stretch as actors and be the.
You don't think Tom Cruise is a good actor?
I think he's irrelevant in my world.
Uncensored next, Mickey Rourke breaks down, remembering the time he met Russia's Vladimir Putin, and reveals what he'd say to the dictator now if he got the chance.
We'll let these people in Ukraine be independent, and democratic society they want to live in, and just stop today. Stop now, not tomorrow. Just stop right now.
Welcome back to the special edition of Piers Morgan Uncensored, an unforgettable interview with Hollywood legend Mickey Rourke. His uncensored opinions and public feuds have often landed him in hot water, but he always bounces back. So what does he make of today's cancel culture, and how does he survive it? I mean, what do you think when you see people being cancelled for having an opinion?
That happens all the time. It's nothing new.
But do you think it's right?
I would have to be given a specific case.
Well, I'll give you one. So Macy Gray, the singer, came on my show last week and said what her definition of a woman was. If I asked you what a woman is, what would you say?
I would say a human being with boobs. You to start there.
Yeah, I mean, the dictionary is quite straightforward. It just says a human adult female, right?
I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
She got so much abuse for her honest opinion that she had to go on the Today Show in America and effectively back down on her opinion, which I thought was ridiculous.
You were on the Piers Morgan show, and there was a question about trans women.
I think that if you, in your heart, feel that that's what you are, then that's what you are, regardless of what anybody says or thinks. You know what I'm saying? I've learned a lot, absolutely, and I'm glad I did.
No, I don't think anybody should have to apologize for what their personal opinion is on any matter, unless their personal opinion is very narrow-minded and it's going to hurt other people.
Mickey shared his thoughts on controversial Russian President Vladimir Putin following the invasion of Ukraine. The pair met back in 2014, and earlier this year he told Fox Nation he had positive memories of meeting the Russian leader. Rourke made headlines all over the world when he's photographed wearing a T-shirt with Putin's face on it. He previously described Putin as a man with empathy. You said some interesting stuff about Vladimir Putin after you met him in 2014. You wore a T-shirt with his picture on it.
That was 2014. Okay?
No, that's what I said, yeah. So I wanted to ask you whether you're...
I just want to make that clear, okay?
Yeah.
I went over there in 2014, and it was some sort of event where some entertainers from the States came over, and he was dancing with Sharon Stone, and he actually was singing a song on a piano. And then he invited me specifically to go to his hometown in St. Petersburg to visit a home that took care of little tiny children that had kind of incurable cancer. And that was really heartbreaking to go to. And I was talking to all these little kids, and I remember I gave a rosary of mine to one of the little girls, and I looked over at Vladimir, and I could see somebody that was genuinely concerned about where we were, and someone who was empathetic, and he was there for a sincere reason.
But how do you square that, Mickey, with the guy we see now illegally invading Ukraine and bombing little children to pieces every single day?
That's the thing that blows my mind, because it's like two brother countries, and it's like I don't understand what he wants, and it's like not only combatants are getting killed, but old people are getting killed, young people are getting killed, schools are getting targeted, hospitals are getting targeted, and all that not right. I saw a guy, an image of a man who was looking in a hole in a ditch, and he was looking for and I put myself in his position. He was looking for his brother, and that kind of struck home with me and bothered me a lot, and made me think he's doing really terrible, bad things. And I wish some kind of little bell would ring in his head or his heart, and he'd wake up and just stop all this. And then I saw a picture of a man, an old man, laying shot on a bicycle, and an old woman shot on a bicycle. But the image that bothered me the most was I saw this old man holding a little gray kitten. And the old man survived his house being bombed. And he lost 5 family members. And the only thing he had kind of hard for me to talk about. The only thing he had was this little gray kitty. And I looked at that image, sorry, and I said, how can I have anything to worry about? Losing a movie, somebody saying bad about me, or I'm having a bad day, and I'm looking at this old guy holding a little kitty that crawled out from the rubble, and that's all he had.
I mean, Mickey, when you talk so powerfully about Ukraine and what's happened to the people there, you must think back to your experience of meeting Putin and question whether he really did have the ability to be empathetic.
I saw it with my eyes. People don't want to hear it. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it the way he treated me. Okay, but Bing, something changed there. And all this mayhem and this death and this killing, I didn't see that when I was at the children's home with the little kids that all had cancer, and he was so genuine and empathetic, and I saw someone who really cared. Now, people might be mad at me for saying something like that, but I saw him in 214. Right now, what's going on right now, I don't believe in that war. I think it's terrible. It's my best friend in the world, who I love more than anybody, is from Ukraine. He just got his family out of Mykolaiv, and every day when Dima, who's Ukrainian, comes to work with me, the first thing I say to him is, how's your mother? How's your family? Because when Dima knocks on the door to come to work, what's going through my mind before he opens the door is he's going to tell me something not good.
What is your message for Putin, if you had a chance to give it to him?
You're not going to live forever. Look at Peter the Great, Napoleon, what happened to them, trying to get more and more and more. And just, you've got your power, your money, just live your life and, let these people in Ukraine be independent, democratic society they want to live in, and just stop today. Stop now, not tomorrow. Just stop right now.
Uncensored next, Mickey Rourke reveals how some choice words for President Trump attracted some unwanted attention from the Secret Service.
They call it the United States of America, but it's now the divided States of America. And there's one big reason for that, but I'm not going to go into it because I don't need another visit from the Secret Service.
This is Talk TV.
Welcome back to this special edition of Uncensored, my incredible interview with Hollywood's comeback king, Mickey Rourke. It's raw, emotional, engaging and explosive. I build him as a man who burns every bridge in Tinseltown, and already we've seen him burning Tom Cruise. Here's a reminder.
That doesn't mean to me. The guy's been doing the same part for 35 years, you know. I got no respect for that.
Well, their scathing comments made headlines across the entire planet, and there was no letting up as the interview continued. In the next part of the show, Mickey opened up on why the only person he won't be uncensored about is Donald Trump. Was it because of something he said about President Trump?
Yeah.
What did you say about him?
Just the truth.
Which is what?
Read my mind.
Well, followed was a conversation that got ever more gripping as it went on. But it was so compelling, I decided to do something I've never done before. I kept taping with him after the show ended. And Mickey went on to describe the time the Secret Service came to visit his home. What do they say?
A lot. And that's just way over my head.
He also talks partying with Tupac.
We never saw the daylight. I love him. I miss him daily, you know. We were very similar. We had a lot of stuff in common. And we loved each other, you know, deeply.
Anne tells me how many times he's truly been in love. How many times have you been, would you say, properly in love in your life?
Once.
Once? Who with?
You know who with.
Turned out I did. But first, I wanted to know what he makes of the state of America today. Mickey, you recently posted a statue of Liberty crying. It was an image of Statue of Liberty crying in tears. And you captioned it with a lot of truth. What did you mean by that?
Well, because they call it the United States of America, but it's now the divided States of America. And there's one big reason for that, but I'm not going to go into it because I don't need another visit from the Secret Service.
When did you have one before?
Oh, about 6 months ago.
Why?
Take a wild guess.
Was it because of something you said about President Trump?
Yeah.
What did you say about him?
Just the truth.
Which is what?
Read my mind.
And the Secret Service actually came to see you?
Oh, yeah.
And what do they say?
A lot. And that's just way over my head, so I got nothing to say anymore about nothing.
Are you sad?
They're still trying to.
Are you
they're
sad?
They're still trying to figure out what happened to Kennedy's brain. All right.
Are you sad, Mickey, about what's happening to America?
No, because I've never felt comfortable in this country to begin with. I've always enjoyed the UK. I've always enjoyed France. I've always enjoyed Italy. I've always enjoyed Russia. I haven't been to the Ukraine. I can't go right now. But I've never really felt comfortable in my own country, really. I've always liked other countries better.
What do you feel about
Italy?
What do you feel
you
about?
Never hear Italy.
I think I'm right in saying, Mickey, that Joe Biden was the first time you'd voted for any president. What do you think of how he's doing?
He's doing all he can do with the mess that he's got on his hands.
Is he too old though for the job, do you think?
I don't think it has anything to do with his age. I think it's going to take after the last thing, it's going to take another 30 years for this country to straighten itself out. If it ever can again. It's divided. You can feel it. I've lost friends over it. But I'm not going to be outspoken about it anymore. I don't need the FBI to call me up and tell me that some Trump fanaticals got me on a hit list and all that. Oh, you know what? I'm moving to Texas. My place is going to be fortified like nobody's business. And if somebody wants to come through my gates, it's going to be the last 2 steps they ever make.
Mickey, I wanted to talk to you also about what happened to your friend Johnny Depp. What did you think of that case and the fact that in the end he won it?
Well, you know, I know Johnny for many years, but I don't really know him intimately. All I could say is I was in a situation one time where I got blamed for something that I didn't do. It cost me movie jobs for several years, and it caused me a bad reputation. And finally, the truth came out. But the truth came out after I lost movies and I lost jobs. And so I felt bad for somebody that is trying to get chopped down by some gold digger, you know?
You think that's what she was?
Absolutely.
You have a Russian model girlfriend, I believe. Is that going well?
No. That was several years ago.
Are you single now?
I've been single for 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like it that way?
At the first 4 years, it was really lonely, but I realized that I couldn't keep going out with women that were gonna. If I ever have a relationship ever again, I hope maybe somebody comes into my life that I can trust.
How many times?
Otherwise,
how many times have you been, would you say, properly in love in your life?
Once.
Once. Who with?
You know who with.
Well, you tell me.
You tell me.
I'll guess it was Carrie.
Yes, it was.
She was the love of your life.
That was 23 years ago. We haven't seen each other or spoke.
If you did see her, what would you say, Mickey?
Nothing.
Do you have any regrets about the way it all ended?
I've got a lot of regrets about a lot of things, you know, so that contradicts that Frank Sinatra song. Yeah, I did it my way, but he says too few to mention. I got too many to remember.
Uncensored next, the unmissable final part of my interview with Mickey Rourke. He tells you why Tyson Fury will fight again and what it was like to party with the legendary rapper Tupac Shakur.
We were very similar. We had a lot of stuff in common. And we loved each other, you know, deeply. And I think about him all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, all the time. On a weekly basis, practically.
That's why he's putting his neck on the block yet again, this time working with the fugitive child abuser Roman Polanski.
I only know about working with him as a director and it being one of my most pleasurable experiences acting ever.
Welcome back. In a moment, we'll hear from Mickey Rourke about his future, his legacy, and why he's working with Roman Polanski. I'll also ask him about his now legendary 30-year feud with former co-star Robert De Niro. They first fell out off-screen in the 1980s, and they fell out on-screen too in the classic thriller Angel Heart.
I didn't want to cause a scene. I hate to have any sort of fuss, so I thought perhaps you could, subtly, in a more quiet manner.
You want me to check it out?
Check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
It's funny, I have a feeling I've met you before.
I don't know. I don't think so.
But first, Mickey's a lifelong boxer. He infamously quit acting to attempt to come back himself, and he's a big fan of Tyson Fury. Does he think the world heavyweight champion will ever fight again? And will he? What do you make of the way Tyson Fury handles himself, the world heavyweight champion?
I love Tyson Fury. He has so much ability, it's not even funny.
Do you think he'll fight again? He says he's given up.
Every fighter says they've given up, and they all come back.
How do you rate him in the pantheon of heavyweight champs?
Excuse me?
How do you rate Tyson in the list of the greatest ever?
One of the very best ever because of his size, but he's also a very fluid fighter. He uses feints. He uses his jab. He's very intelligent. He's got a very extremely high boxing IQ, and it's in his blood. And he knows how to pace himself. Plus, he takes one hell of a punch and gets back up.
When you were boxing, Mickey, obviously you got to know a lot of boxers, you got to know the art of boxing, you were a very good boxer yourself. Who is the boxer in history of any weight you would have least wanted to get in the ring with at their peak?
Well, there's two different things there. There's like a great fighter like Lennox Lewis that is eventually going to catch you. Because of his height, his reach, his boxing IQ. And then there's the first 4 or 5 rounds with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
One fighter I admire so much is from your country was Henry Cooper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he could have beaten Ali, couldn't he? He had a chance.
Well, he actually did. If the gloves didn't get cut, the time would have ran out.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Do you still box, Mickey?
Yes, fitness? I do. Yeah. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to have one last one.
Mike Tyson is still fighting. Why don't you finally get in the ring with Tyson? Test your theory.
I don't mess around with anything over 220 pounds. Nah.
How is your feud with Robert De Niro going? Is that showing any sign of thawing?
There's no feud. It's just a lot of people try to stir up. I have nothing. I have no feeling whatsoever on the subject.
Who is the greatest actor you've ever seen?
Aside from myself?
Aside from yourself?
Oh. I would say Marlon Brando, Monty Cliff, Richard Harris. Who? Charles Bronson.
He was great. He was great, actually. But you are a great actor, Mickey. I mean, you are one of the great actors. When you were on your absolute A game, you were up there with any of the greats, I think.
Well, I'm back on my A game.
You think you still are?
No, I know I am.
Are you considering any roles at the moment you think could show us?
Well, I just had a great experience with Roman Polanski. I'm going to go over to Paris to work with Jean Reno and Vincent Cassel, and so we've got some very interesting projects lined up.
On Polanski, I mean, it's a very controversial figure, Polanski. He is technically a fugitive, child rapist.
Well, aside from Yeah, I don't know much about that because he never went to court, and there were a lot of people that told their side of the story where he already had taken off. So
well, he did go to court. He did go to court, Mickey. He got convicted, and then he absconded.
Well, I didn't know all about that. I only know about working with him as a director and it being one of my most pleasurable experiences acting ever. And if I could work with him one or two times, I would really be very fortunate and very happy. So I loved working with him.
It doesn't bother you that he fled justice?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, would you work for somebody like Harvey Weinstein, for example? Knowing what you know now?
I turned down a couple jobs from Harvey Weinstein. But I worked with him. I can't answer that.
What's the moment, Mickey, of your entire career that if I had the ability to let you relive it now, you would choose to relive?
My career or my life?
Your career. Well, I'll come to your life as well, but first your career.
I did a movie once that they paid me an enormous amount of money, and I was ashamed of doing it. I was ashamed that I sold out, and that's when I left acting and went back to fighting for 6 years. And so I really regretted doing this one particular movie because they paid me a lot of money, and I went and bought a big house and all that.
Which was the movie?
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
And if you had your time again, you just wouldn't do it?
Absolutely. I loved working with Don Johnson. It was just I didn't like the material or the director was can I say? Yeah.
What's next, Mickey? What do you want to achieve? You're a guy. You said you're in your third act now. What do you want it to be?
Yeah, the beginning. First of all, I'm moving to Texas. I think that's going to be really good for me to be in a place where I don't know. I could be around horses, which I love, and I could get myself very focused. I could keep myself in really good physical shape and mental shape. I've always kept my spirituality very private, but it's a very strong part of my life. What do I want to do now? And I started doing this about 2 years ago. Was when I get an opportunity to work, I want to do the best job in that moment that I could ever possibly give the director to do. In other words, I'm not going to walk through it. I'm going to give him everything I got. Because from now on, every job I get, they're going to get all of me.
What does it take, Mickey, to be a truly great actor?
I think a lot of hard work and discipline. And to be able to be brave enough to make choices that are interesting choices that are either going to be really, really good or terrible.
And the other question I wanted to ask you, what was it like to party with Tupac?
We never saw the daylight. I love him. I miss him daily, you know. We were very similar. We had a lot of stuff in common. And we loved each other, you know, deeply. And I think about him all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, all the time. On a weekly basis, practically. Yeah.
You seem, Mickey, and I don't want this to sound patronising, but you seem happier than I've known you for a while. More content in your own skin, perhaps.
Well, you know, I think for some strange reason, the year and a half that I didn't leave my house, and I brought all my weight equipment and all my boxing equipment, and I isolated myself for a year and a half, it helped me kind of get centered about my priorities and to... The worst thing anybody can get is bitter. And that's the one thing I said I would never get. I remember several years ago being at the Cannes Film Festival, and there was an actor who used to be a movie star, but not anymore. And all he was doing was bad-mouthing some actor. And I was listening to him going, besides the fact that you're a junkie and an alcoholic, here you are bad-mouthing this guy, and it's like, you're just a bitter... And I go, I never want to get like that, you know? People say to me, what's your best film? And I say, I haven't made it yet.
Which is a great answer, because it shows that you look forward, not back, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with both hands.
When you do finally have to look back because you're no longer with us, how would you like to be remembered? If you could write your own tombstone and it said, here lies Mickey Rourke, he...
I don't really care to be remembered that way.
Really? You don't want to be remembered at all?
That's not relevant to me. I'm looking forward to when I go to heaven and I can see where most of my friends are now. Or, well, some of them are in hell, but I mean, I'm looking forward to the next journey. I mean, I don't fear death. I fear dying, but I don't fear death because I truly believe it's going to be like a big happy reunion.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing up in heaven?
Most of all, my brother, my younger brother, Joey, my grandmother, my father, some aunts and uncles I didn't get to know, Tupac, good-looking Thomas, like to meet Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, all those guys, Monty Cliff, you know. So I mean, there's more people that I love. I mean, the older you get, the more people around you die. I mean, you know, 2 months ago, Ray Liotta was alive, and 2 weeks ago, Jimmy Caan was alive. I mean, I miss Willie DeVille, one of my favorite singers, you know, and it's like I've got more people, you know, gone than here, so it's like, you know, that's just another journey that I'm looking forward to.
Well, so am I, Mickey. It's been fantastic to interview you. Thank you so much for all your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, there you have it, a remarkable interview with a remarkable Hollywood character. That's all for tonight. Whatever you're up to this evening, like Mickey Rourke, keep it uncensored. Good night.
Join me, Ian Collins, every day on Talk TV.
There is nothing we hate more than hypocrisy.
Discussing the big issues.
Why was it so hard to establish the deputy leader was at a meeting with her colleagues?
The callers.
Alan in Grimsby. Tracy in Burton-on-Trent. Dave, thank you very much.
Picking apart the big stuff.
This simply does not wash. Look who's back under the spotlight.
This is Talk TV News.
Good evening, I'm Zora Silverman. Delays will last into the weekend after a critical incident was declared at the port of Dover, which saw holidaymakers stuck in 6-hour queues. British police blamed France, whilst the French have blamed Eurotunnel. The RMT has confirmed next week's planned rail strike will go ahead. 40,000 workers at Network Rail and 14 train companies will walk out next Wednesday. And Talk TV and The Sun will be hosting a Conservative leadership debate between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss next week. You can watch The Sun's showdown, The Fight for Number 10, hosted by Talk TV's political editor Kate McCann and The Sun's political editor Harry Cole from 6 p.m. next Tuesday. That's all for now. We'll have more after the talk.